Hello again and welcome to our second episode of Unpluggered for 2020. The year has been rollicking along at a rapid rate. The AFLW girls are a couple of games into their season. They can certainly hold their heads high, but unfortunately yet to land a victory. And the men will take to the park this week for the first time in the Marsh Community Series when they take on Hawthorn for one of two occasions. They've got them at Moorabbin and they've got them in the Bushfire charity game the following week as well down in Morwell, which will be interesting to see. Darren Parker and Aaron McGrath and Nick Splitter bringing you Unplugged. You can follow us via all of our socials. Nick, as I welcome you in, and I think we still have plenty of stickers and the like around. So if you see them on cars and you want one, how can we get people in the right direction?
Yeah, mate, send us, tweet us at Unplugged on Twitter, or send us a message on Facebook, or just email us unplugged@gmail.com. And shoot us through your address and we'll send you out a sticker.
Absolutely. We'll get that through. So welcome to you and to Aaron McGrath. H, you've fresh from the Intra Club. I think you're the only one of the three of us that took that in. So that was your first glimpse of footy for the year?
Yeah, had a free day to run down there and have a look, and very, very impressed with what I saw, actually. A lot of the new players on our list, nice bit of coverage we've picked up and covering what we've lost or didn't have previously. But yeah, we'll cover a little bit of that soon, and it's good things ahead.
Yeah, it does look that way. Obviously, for those listening to this podcast, it's recorded on the eve of the game with Hawthorn. We'll discuss that and other issues as well, broader in terms of the remainder of the season. But wouldn't mind starting with the leadership group. So it's been announced Darren Geary remains captain. Seb Ross remains vice-captain, having led the side for most of last season. Jack Billings in the leadership group. Tim Membry, who has been spoken about all summer as a smoky, a bolter in the leadership, he's in that group. But probably the two stories, one being Bradley Hill landing in the leadership group in his first year at the club, and the other one a great story, Dylan Roberton, fantastic for him, coming off 2 ruined years and a very, very serious health concern. A very popular player at the club, but obviously to get himself into the leadership group is a wonderful reward.
Yeah, I think he was in the leadership group when he went down a couple of years ago. I think he always would have stayed in the leadership group. The boys love him. The coaching group loves him. He spent a lot of time in the box with the coaches and on the track with the coaches over the last couple of years, I guess working on his leadership. And it was no surprise really to me to see him back in there as soon as he was back on the track as a player. Likewise with Darren Geary, I don't think there's a better candidate for the captaincy at the club right now. We spoke about it a couple of weeks ago. That I think he's the best captain at our club, and I'm not surprised, given the way that he leads on the field. He's not the most talented footballer. He's not the most skilled footballer. He's not going to go and kick incredible goals or take screamers every week. But he doesn't back down. He hits it hard, and the players look up to him.
And one thing further to that is that we get a lot of tweets into us and even via correspondence on an SEN and things like that saying if he wasn't captain, would he be in the best 22? That's an absurd question. I mean, is there a player on St Kilda's list that is a better shutdown defender than Darren Geary? Who takes that role in the side? I mean, we've missed him when we play. He didn't play against Adelaide on either occasion, and Eddie Betts, who didn't get a kick all year, tore us apart in both games. He's played in the past on guys like Cyril Rioli in full flight. Now, he's not the best player in the competition, but he's clearly our best small defender.
100%.
Yeah. I think you find that the bad games he has had are the ones that people see stand out more than what he actually does good, because we get that every other week, but then he has a shocker and everyone's onto him. But, yeah, you say we missed him for a lot. You saw the way that there was a few games where we just fell over in the back line because, one, we're missing him, two, we're missing Carlisle. Probably two of the players that down the back line lead the team while they're out there.
Really hold it together.
Yeah.
Really hold it together. And, it was in some respects it was good while he was out. You got to get more games into Ben Patton and some of those young guys who, performed admirably. And I think, guys like Patton and Langlands and some of those kids that spent a bit of time down back could potentially be players in the future, but do you pick him over Darren Geary? No.
Not right now, no.
He's better than McKenzie. He plays a different role to Savage. Mm-hmm. Ben Long's clearly going to rebound, different player entirely.
Caulfield running back.
Yeah, Roberton taller. Yeah, Caulfield running a good ball user. So there are options, but they're not the same player.
No.
Like you wouldn't put Caulfield on. I mean, who's the best small forward in the competition? Let's throw one out of the air. You wouldn't put Caulfield on Papley, for example.
No. Charlie Cameron,
yeah. So
basically, just to sum it up, really, if the players say he is the best leader, I'm going with them.
And the coaches.
That's
and
as
the
simple
staff.
as it is. If he's good enough for them to say, well, he's our leader, that's it for me.
Is it logical that Seb Ross, is there any concern around the fact that if Geary left or retired suddenly, that there is a bit of a leadership void, or is Seb Ross a logical captain option, or are we a bit bereft beyond that? I mean, Tim Membry, everyone keeps talking about it. It doesn't jump off the page, but as we say, we're not in the group to obviously see firsthand.
Yeah, they talked about him a bit towards the back end of last season as well, just in the way that he'd stepped up in a leadership capacity, especially in the forward line. It's a bit of a concern. I mean, personally, I'm not sure that Seb Ross is captain material. There's a few guys that I'd probably choose ahead of him, and Dan Hanbury's one, but there's some obvious issues in terms of getting him fit and getting him out in the park first. Jack Steele, I'd have up there.
It was surprising omission, I reckon.
Yeah,
that's a fair call. Yeah,
my biggest surprise out of that leadership group was that Steele wasn't in it, because I thought that he was a candidate for vice captaincy, and he's probably my preferred player for next captain, in a year or two.
Which now seems unlikely based on that, but we'll find out what does happen. He's a little bit younger than Darren Geary. Your thoughts on Brad Hill, obviously going straight in there of all of the recruits that we brought across from other clubs?
Yeah, well, has he made that much impact already? That's the thing. Has he jumped ahead of the likes of Hanbury already?
Well, I know he came back to train with the first of 4 years as a senior player, which he didn't need to do. He's gone to a lot of the external functions and things like that. Plus, he's obviously a jet. He's been lighting it up on the track. And we've got to remember, I think Hanbury was in the leadership group at the start of last year and either withdrew himself or was withdrawn because of injury. So
basically, does that mean, like, I'm looking at that. I mean, you say, so he's sort of being a leader of the young guys. Membry's a bit of a leader of the forwards. Robin's a bit of a leader of the defenders.
Yeah.
It's maybe a bit of a structure in there looking at it.
I think also, forget that Brad Hill was in the leadership group at Freo.
Yes.
And was known as a leader at Freo until, a fairly highly
possibly
publicised...
captain if Fife's not there.
Yeah, exactly. Dougal Howard was a captain for Port Adelaide last year. It was only one game, but he was in the leadership group. So I'm not sure that there's a void. I'm not sure that there's someone ready today to take over from Darren Geary.
What we're going to do now is just play a quick little snippet of Brad Hill speaking about being inducted into the leadership group.
It's obviously awesome to be a part of it. Obviously, I've only been here for a few months, but it's great to be a part of the leadership group, and I just want to help out as much as I can, especially to the younger players coming through. So, I'm very honoured to be a part of this group, and looking forward to the season. Was it a surprise? Did you have a sense of the impact you'd had? I guess you never know until obviously the votes come in. But I wasn't ever going to change the way I was going to lead and the way I am with the playing group, and especially the younger players, and probably my personality. I'm pretty out there and get along with everyone. So like I said, it's an honour to be a part of this group.
And also from the captain, Darren Geary, who was honoured again to lead the club into the 2020 season.
Gives real show of faith from the playing group to be voted in fourth year as skipper.
Really honoured again to lead the footy club. It's a great responsibility to have, something I've really enjoyed doing over the last few years, and it's something that when you get voted in by your peers, you're pretty proud of. So I'm looking forward to leading the boys out again this year. Hopefully it's a bit more often this year than it was last year, but again, really humbled and proud to lead the Saints.
As you touched on, pretty difficult 2019 for yourself. How frustrating was it to be sitting on the sidelines for large parts of the season?
Yeah, it's always hard when you can't help a cause. It was a tough year in many ways last year, not just for me, but for a lot of guys within the club. So things are looking up this year. It's an exciting place to be, and last year was one we put behind us and moved forward. But great vibe around the footy club. Got some new talent in, some new coaches, and it's a really exciting place to be at the moment.
Darren Geary, their fourth season in a row for him as captain, took over at the start of 2017 when Nick Rewalt was still playing. Obviously, Nick played 1 year as a non-captain under Darren Geary. In terms of the squad for this week, and for those listening, apologies if you pick it up after that particular game, but you would have seen it. So Hanbury managed, which is interesting. You can only assume that because he had a big load of minutes in the intra-club match, either he pulled up slightly sore. They were planning on playing him in 2 practice matches, so not this one, the next 2. Zach Jones was scheduled to have his wisdom teeth out about 3 weeks ago, but the operation got delayed due to the dental surgery. So he would have been available to play this game, but can't due to the timing. I think he had his wisdom teeth out last Friday, so he'll play next week. And the other ones left out were Geary with a calf and Robertson with a knee. But I think you saw all of them fairly close up.
Except apart from Geary, who didn't play in the intra-club. Hanbury played a lot of minutes, played a lot of, basically on the ball the whole game. Got a fair bit of it. He was doing a lot of on-field coaching. That was one thing I noticed him really being out there to do. He was really directing the players, getting them into positions. He'd run off the field and then just stand right on the boundary line and keep yelling out, "Come on, get here," that sort of thing. Robertson probably had a reasonable match, to be honest. He probably looked as good as he did when he was playing 3 years ago. Running the lines well, defending great, as he always did. And the other one who was out was Zach Jones.
Yes.
In the first half, he was clear best on ground.
Yeah.
Maybe tapered off a little bit, but probably overall ended up probably being best on.
I'm lucky that I've still got my wisdom teeth, so I don't know what that's like to go through. I know others have probably experienced it, but the other ones that sort of has been a topic of discussion. So Max King kicked 4 in the intra-club match, admittedly for the likelies versus the unlikelies, so playing against maybe the younger group. But should we be embracing the Max hype, or should we be trying to play it down a little bit to look after him? Should it be let the kid, I mean, clearly he's going to play, but let the kid loose and embrace the fact that we think he's going to be pretty sharp?
In saying that, he probably kicked more goals when the teams were more level.
Right, okay.
So he kicked 2 in the last 2 or 3 minutes of the first half.
Yeah.
When the teams hadn't really been switched back over as yet. So in the second half, when it became more the first 22 versus the rest, he probably didn't have as much impact.
Okay.
It's an interesting one about the hype. I tend to feel like he's been in the system for a year, and even before that, he was basically in the system, training with our guys at our club. He clearly knows what he's doing, and I think he knows that he's good enough to perform at a certain level. I think the club knows that he's good enough to perform at that level.
And he can learn from his brother too.
Well,
He'll be a teammate eventually. So.
Yeah. Don't mention the war. I think let him loose. Let him loose. If I was the coaching group, I'd be tempted to let him play 5 minutes on a wing and just let him run. We've heard for 12 months is the nickname of Winks. Let him run. Let him run and let him show people. Even he doesn't need to kick 6 goals. He can kick 1 goal. He could kick no goals.
He could set up 4 or 5 of those. That's the other thing.
But just let him touch the ball in a competitive setting against other professionals, not from our club. And just let him go.
And one area where I thought we were actually better when McCartan played, I know we had his critics, but I thought we were often a bit directionless without him in the side. So he was very good, McCartan, and hopefully he plays again one day, but he was very good at throwing himself into packs, smashing packs apart, ball hits the ground. And you knew that when we were farting around with the ball sort of midfield or just forward of centre, that you could bomb it long in there, he'd crunch a pack, it creates chaos. We sort of haven't had that, and Max King strikes me as the type of guy that hopefully you want him to take a couple of those marks, but just someone that, and Rewalt was a classic example of a get-out-of-jail play. He just kicked it in his direction. He wouldn't always mark it, but provides that contest. I think Max has that presence about him that in pressure situations he'll draw the ball, which will help us structure-wise, even if he's young. Yeah.
He's a legitimate, genuine target. For all his athleticism, he's a big boy, and he'll love having some freedom in the forward line. It's going to be really interesting. One of the things, looking at this squad that was named, and you've already talked about the players who are not playing, but even without those guys, this is a really strong squad.
Yeah.
Really strong squad. And so for the first time in a number of years, there's going to be competition for nearly every player, every spot on this list every week, which is a great thing for us.
Yeah. I mean, even looking at what happened on Thursday, Ryan Abbott probably had the better of Rowe in the first quarter at least.
Oh dear.
He actually looked pretty good, to be honest. Like Marshall wasn't doing anything wrong.
Oh, that's all right.
Abbott was actually looking quite good. And in the other way that he got used as a backup ruck, Marsh.
Yeah.
Down forward, he was providing a great target.
Now,
and then moved into the ruck and was actually playing pretty well there too.
No, I don't mind that Marshall's not playing in the state game because it's one less chance for him to get injured. I know that sounds bad, but So Gresham and Hill are playing in that game, but are we surprised? So with no Max Gawn, I think that it came down to Marshall or Goldstein as to who they thought would be the best Victorian ruckman. No argument really in the sense that Goldstein's played so much footy, but he's a little bit stiff. Marshall not to be in that side.
Did he say he didn't want to play?
Possibly.
Yeah.
I doubt it, but it's possible.
Mm.
You think you probably would because you never get a chance to play state footy anymore.
Well, yeah, that's true. I think sometimes we can get mixed up between how good Rowan Marshall was last year and how good he can potentially be in the future. And you compare him against Todd Goldstein, who's got the runs on the board for a decade. You know, he's a very, very good ruckman, and he probably is the third best ruckman in the league.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have an issue with them selecting Goldstein. I would have liked to see Marshall, obviously. I love state footy. We spoke about it a couple of weeks ago. I would have loved to see as many of our guys in that game wearing the big V specifically, but running out in a team like that, I would have loved to see our guys out there. But when you talk about the best players in the league, Todd Goldstein is one of the best ruckmen in the league.
Yes, he is.
There's no complaints.
Over the time he's played, definitely. Yep.
Allow Rowe to focus on, obviously, playing that ruck forward role alongside Paddy Ryder. Did we mention Ryder earlier, H?
He didn't play.
Didn't play?
No.
Yep.
And I think he's possibly still being managed.
Yeah,
he's in this
He's
side.
actually been named
this side.
Named
Okay.
as centre-half forward. One that I was surprised about and I would have liked to see tomorrow night is Jack Bytel.
Yeah.
We haven't seen a lot of him. We don't hear a lot about him, but there's whispers.
He went pretty well.
There are
last
whispers
week.
about how good this kid can be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there has been since we drafted him.
Talking to someone who's watched a lot of him, he does read the play very well. He does get to the right spots. He very good ball user. As we know, he should have gone a top 10. Definitely.
And
So,
big raps on his leadership
Yeah.
capability as well.
He will be one to watch.
Stewart Loewe will be our special guest on the program, speaking of somebody that played a heck of a lot of state footy over the journey, and keen to get his thoughts on a number of issues. Just one before we get to that. It's completely jumping off on a tangent, and we'll wrap up the AFLW later. But Ross Lyon spoke during the week on a podcast, and I think revealed some of that personality. And I think Matthew Pavlich at Freo and a couple of others at St Kilda have said clearly the best coach they've ever had and the best coach they've ever seen. He rubs people up the wrong way, Ross, with his press conference demeanour and his coaching demeanour, but he seems to be a very different bloke to that in reality, and they love him. He was at Lenny Hayes' 40th the other day, which the video of that was up on socials. Rewalt loves him. Milne, who we spoke to, loves him as well. I know a lot of Saints fans are still probably a bit bitter from the departure, and he said a little bit about that the club sort of backed him into a corner. But will there come a time, you think, where Ross gets the appreciation maybe he deserves from the St Kilda faithful, or is there still that perception, he ruined the list? My attitude is, the list wasn't in great shape, but we were 3 millimetres away from winning back-to-back premierships.
I think it's one of those things that when you win a flag, all is forgiven.
Correct. And you probably don't fall off the cliff either.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
And I think when we do win that flag, then I think we look back on it and we go, geez, he was good for us. Yeah. I mean, I think we're already starting to do that when you look at what we've gone through in the last 8-10 years and where we were in 09, 10, 11 and what could have happened and how close we got. That doesn't happen by accident.
No, it doesn't.
That's not just because we had a talented list.
Yeah.
That is work ethic and great coaching. And he was a great coach. Was he a great list manager? Well, he wasn't the list manager, but he was fairly involved in a lot of those decisions. And looking back, some of those decisions potentially left us a bit in the lurch. I think would be putting it mildly. But he did everything possible to win a premiership.
Yeah.
And nearly won 2.
The question is he going into the media or anything? Do we know? Because if he starts talking us up, I reckon he'll get the fans back quick enough.
I think it'll be good in the media if he does. And I sense he'll probably find his way in there sooner or later.
Someone will want him.
That's right. Well, the Saints have played one game at Moorabbin this year. The AFLW girls opening the curtain on the new era with a game against the Western Bulldogs a couple of weeks ago. They will play again on Friday against Melbourne. And, of course, it's the Marsh Community Series this week against Hawthorn. We're going to reflect on some Moorabbin memories.
In 1965, a record home attendance of 51,370 saw St Kilda play Collingwood in the opening round at Moorabbin. They hung from the rafters, they squeezed into every vantage point. They won by a kick.
We didn't win many games, but we had some fun.
There's a booming torpedo kick from Ferring to full forward. Goal! What a goal! Can he find him?
Well, the tension's on here at Moorabbin, and Lockett's led. There's the pass on the way, and Lockett has marked directly in front. Now, Pete, you've kicked 100 goals yourself. Call this 100th goal in league football of Tony Lockett's if he kicks it.
Well, Tony Lockett coming in for goal number 100. He'll never forget. It's a goal! A great effort by the young champ. A beautiful kick, and there the Saints players protecting Tony Lockett, and the crowd are coming on in their hundreds and thousands. And I knew the police had no hope, Kev.
Morris kicks long to half forward. Loewe, causing major problems. Here's another one. This will be Winmar. The Saints are alight.
So we're set to go. St Kilda kicking to the right. They've got two of their champions back. And the Crows to the left. Tregenza got to touch Harvey, who's been a big star this year. Goes towards full forward Lockett. What a dream start. Couldn't have asked for more than that, Don.
You can listen to that crowd. I think the crowd tells the story, doesn't it?
Special place in my heart, I suppose, Moorabbin, especially, them last quarters when the game's close and all the supporters and that start ranting and raving and cheering and, it nearly brings the roof down. There's just some sort of feeling that you get when you're at Moorabbin that you don't get when you're at any other ground.
Well, Jen, I think I can speak on behalf of all visiting players to Moorabbin that say farewell and good riddance to those cold showers in the club rooms after the 6-inch mud cakes you used to get on yourself in the middle.
Cold showers?
Well, that was being polite. They were a trickle of water.
It is time now on our broadcast this week to catch up with one of the all-time greats of the club. 321 games, 594 goals. Club captain St Kilda into a grand final in 1997. Best and fairest winner in 1990. All-Australian, State of Origin rep as well. All of those topics particularly current in terms of the landscape around football at the moment with the return of the State of Origin next week, but also the pre-season on our doorsteps, and the pre-season competition has changed dramatically. We know now it's obviously more practice match based, but I think we all remember the halcyon days of 1996 at Waverley Park. But I speak of Stewart Loewe, and Stewart, thank you very much for joining us.
No, my pleasure, boys. Good to be here.
Now, I apologise for asking a difficult one first up, and I understand that it's obviously a particularly hard topic. We were broadcasting a show not long after the passing of Danny Frawley, and we all had our chances to sort of share our thoughts and pay our respects and pay our tributes. First of all, well done for the courage you and Robert Harvey and co showed at the funeral and also at the best and fairest. But I guess a lasting memory that has stayed with you over these coming months when reflecting on Danny particularly.
Oh, look, it's probably a poignant question. As there has been a little bit of time that's gone by. I got asked up by Tony Brown to address the boys up at Ballarat last Thursday night around the campfire and just talk a little bit about the great man and his role at the footy club when I was there and his legacy he left and what he sort of meant to myself and certainly his teammates back then as both a teammate and skipper. I took time to go to the accident site and yeah, it was something that I'd been putting off, but it was the right time and look, we're never going to forget him. He was larger than life. He was one of my best mates. Footy transcends a lots of parts of your life, and loved every moment I had playing with him on the field. He was fearless. He was courageous. He was funny. He knew when to lighten the mood. He knew when to put the foot down and get the boys G'd up. He was just an unbelievable athlete that probably people forgot in his later life in what he was doing on the bounce and all the mucking around and the weight he put on, which he hated. But he was just a fierce and awesome competitor and athlete. Used to be top three in every endurance run we used to do. Was such a young leader. He was captain of the footy club at 23 and never really looked back. And until the day he retired, he was captain, and there was no better person that I could run out in the field with. We'll never replace him, and we'll never forget him. And his legacy is large, and it's just left a huge hole in my heart and a huge hole around the footy club and around my life. But he's got three beautiful daughters and an amazing wife that I know will carry on his legacy, and we'll all try our best. The guys that played with him, and I know the guys now representing the club, will try their best to capture that elusive flag that we're all chasing back then, and hopefully it's not too far away.
Stewie, Nick Splitter here. Thanks for coming on the show, mate. Just want to reiterate what Darren said earlier, and thank you for your kind words for Spud and everything you did throughout that period. I think a lot of Saints fans as well were struggling through that period. But to lighten the mood a little bit, you probably would have had some decent battles with him on the training track, especially if Plugger was out or injured or suspended or whatever. He missed a few games, the big fella did. But did you ever cop a spray from him in the goal square on the training track, or did he get in your ear a bit and chirp at training?
We had a couple of years when Kenny was coaching, where Hutto would take Jamie Shanahan, myself, Plugger and Spud, the four of us, and we do probably 20 minutes of training sort of one-on-one with each other, and we'd rotate around. Generally I'd get Shanners, but quite often we'd mix it around, and I can pinpoint that as the real defining turning point in my career. Both amazing backmen in their own rights, and if you had to be on your game, and it was on. It was 110%. It was match day stuff, and Spud hated you taking one or getting one or pushing him off, and he'd be there with an elbow in the guts. You knew it. So those memories of those battles were phenomenal. I actually never stood him in a pracky game. We used to always be pitted against each other on any sort of camps that we did. He'd always be on another team, and he'd be inevitably a leader of his team, and I'd be one of the leaders in one of the other teams, and we'd battle out. We'd really battle it out. There's only one time up at Puckapunyal where we were both sort of semi-injured, and we were put in the one team together, and we had this orienteering run on the last day, and it was supposed to take half a day, and we had about 5 minutes to get our team together, and Spud and I sort of put our heads together, and we tore the map into fours, and we sent two blokes out to each sort of corner of the grid, and we were back within about 2 hours. We got every mark clipped on our sheet, and the coaches and the guys looking after it up at Puckapunyal sort of scratched their heads and said, "Well, boys, the bar's yours." So as soon as there was an incentive for a bit of a beer and to sort of not break the rules, but just put our heads together and come up with a plan, he certainly did. And I wish I could say I was the instigator of it. I might have had a little bit of a say in it, but it was mainly the big fella's idea. But no, he was awesome. As I said, words can't describe, what he was as a player. He just gave his all, and as I said to the boys the other night, if you can rest your head on your pillow at your end of the game or at the end of the year or at the end of your career to say that you've got everything in your body, then you've done yourself proud, your family proud, and your club proud, and I know that's one thing that he prided himself on.
G'day, Buck. It's great to have you on. Thanks for joining us. Now, thinking of Plugger and when he moved on at the end of 1994, obviously he missed a fair bit of 94, but the change from there on, from 95 onwards, we obviously needed to find some goals from somewhere. We found that you yourself kicked 160 plus over the next 2 years, but just the change from having him Plugger there to not having him there, just how did you have to change your game? How did everyone have to restructure, and what was the biggest difference that you found?
Oh, look, there's no doubt. Look, I rate Plugger with halves as the best players I've ever played with. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And you'd have him in your side. If we could have retained him, we would have had him. But we were fortunate enough to get some terrific kids through that trade with Plugger going up to Sydney. And it was probably a great opportunity for me to probably play a little bit deeper, which I played the majority of my football previous to that, obviously up forward. Up a little higher at centre forward. So we just tweaked a few things around, and look, I really enjoyed playing a little bit deeper. We then were fortunate enough to get Jason Heatley from West Coast, who was sensational for 2 or 3 years for us, and I think kicked 60 or 70 goals in 97. Who provided a real good focal point up there. But look, we would have loved to have had him there. We had to adjust slightly. We probably having me down deeper enabled us to still have a real get out and a go to. We were all shattered when he left, and knew that we all had to dig deep and work a little bit harder to come up with the wins.
Nearly kicked a ton, obviously, in 96, 90 goals that you probably would have had. We have snuck into the finals, but I know we will get on to Moorabbin in a moment. But just on, obviously, that particular the period, and you were a particularly prolific State of Origin player, as was Robert Harvey, who won 3 EJ Whitten medals. You obviously picked up one of those and played state footy for probably a decade. And we spoke about the pre-season competition where 96 there were 70,000 people at a grand final. A couple of years later when you played North, there was about the same. In between, other grand finals were drawing that as well. Essendon, Richmond in 93, for example. Could you foreshadow or foresee at that point in time that, say, 20 years down the track, there'd be no State of Origin and there'd be no pre-season competition?
Yeah, I must admit, when we started, we were bussed all around the state playing sort of these quasi practice games that didn't really mean much. That were you were hard to get motivated for on grounds or around the countryside. Inevitably, in the middle of the day, at 35 degrees on a rock hard track. The pre-season comp was great. We certainly embraced it. My mentality going into every pre-season was to be the fittest I could be coming back after Christmas, and then as fit as I could be round one as the first practice game, and just try to hang on. In hindsight, maybe I probably could have done things a little bit differently, but that was always my ethos, was just to be as fit as I could. So I relished all those pre-season games. State footy for us in the late 80s and the early 90s was as good as finals. We hadn't played that many finals, so to be involved with the likes of Gary Ablett and Greg Williams and the absolute champions of the game, to run around in their company was just enormous for our growth. I tell the story of one of my first training sessions at the MCG, and we were just doing simple lane work, and Billy Goggins was the coach, and it was all fairly relaxed, and I was nervous as hell, and sort of just doing some simple lane work, sort of working it at maybe 3/4 pace, and I'd sort of mark the footy and just kick one to Diesel Williams and just missed him by sort of, by maybe half a metre. He gave me the biggest spray, and I must admit, I don't think I missed a kick. Not that I was the greatest kick, but I did not miss a kick at state training, or probably for the rest of that year. It just gave me an insight as to why these guys were so good, and the attention to detail. So I loved it. I loved EJ. Again, Spud was instrumental in playing a lot, as Harves and Berkey were really lucky and fortunate enough to be selected in about a dozen games through that era, and played in some massive games, and there was that real rivalry. It was tough trying to come up for 3 games in a week. There's no doubt about that. And as the years went on, I unfortunately had to pull out on a couple, but I certainly put my hand up and loved and cherished every one I played in.
Stewie, around that period, around the kind of early to mid to late 90s, really, that the league had a few new clubs come in. There was a lot more money being thrown around at players, and there are obviously some fairly well-told stories about St Kilda players particularly being targeted by some of those clubs, and obviously Plugger left, yourself and Harves and Berkey and you guys stayed. Was there any real threat of you guys leaving?
I know Harves and I were targeted by Fremantle. I probably the year they or the second year they were about, they flew me over, which was common knowledge, and I had a look at the facilities and met a few of the players, and had a couple of nights with Neil Danner, who was the assistant coach at the time, and came back and just thought to myself, I'm not comfortable about sort of moving interstate from family, and I'd sort of without telling anyone made my mind up that I was going to stay. Ironically, that Saturday I was putting a bet on down at the Sandringham TAB, and Noel Judkins, who was then recruiting manager for Essendon, sort of was in there at the same time, and we ended up having a chat for about half an hour, and he teed up an interview with Sheeds at Essendon, and again, I walked into the meeting thinking I don't really want to change, and we met at one of the supporters' houses just opposite Windy Hill. No one really knew about it, and I walked in, and again, fairly intimidating meeting. Such a champion and a great coach, and we sat down, and Kevin had a cup of tea, and I think I had a glass of water, and it was about 10 o'clock on maybe Monday or Tuesday, and we just had a bit of a chit chat about various things, and he brought a whiteboard up with all the names, and I think it was Paul Salmon, full forward, Stewart Loewe, I think Tim Watson might have been in the middle, and Kevin Walsh. It was just this phenomenal side, and I must admit, I went home and gave that some serious consideration. But at the same time, Trevor Barker was coaching our twos, and I walked in to the gym to do some gym work during pre-season, and I walked into Barks and had a chat for literally 2 or 3 minutes, and I just told him, I said, no, I'm not going to go, mate. I'm going to stay. I just really want to be remembered as a one-team club, and I really believe in the direction that the club's heading. That was the end of '95. '96 we won the night flag, and then '97 we played off in one, and shoulda, woulda, coulda. But I feel vindicated in my decision, and I have no regrets, and really am proud to be a one-team player.
And we've asked a few other former players on this show in the past, kind of what is it about St Kilda, about Moorabbin, about Linton Street, about the club in general that is so special, that makes you want to stay, that makes you want to be that one club player and be that hero to so many Saints fans. What is it about St Kilda that makes you want to stay?
It's the people. I've been I've been subject, as Harves and Berkey and Danny and all these people, that the footy club had no culture. The footy club was a basket case. I'm not saying that we did everything right, but there was a hell of a lot of good people down there doing some amazing things, achieving some amazing things. Now, we never tasted the ultimate, but we worked bloody hard. We've never been a powerhouse footy club, but by God, once we get going, we can pack stadiums, and there's a real passion and feeling down there, as there is with most other clubs. But to me, to summarise why I stayed, it was simply the people, and the people make a footy club. And we're just custodians. We're just there for a small time, and we do what we can whilst we're down there, and then we become supporters or followers after that. And to me, that was what I would have felt hard to leave. Blokes like Barks who had been so good to me as a junior, and then to come back to the footy club and to be working there at the time, and for me to walk out on that, it was just hard to do. Don't get me wrong, I was at that stage also, a professional athlete, who, we still had other jobs, but, we were putting a hell of a lot into it. And I slipped away at the fact that I felt strongly that we were in a position to win a flag. And, that's our ultimate reason why we play. And, whilst we didn't quite get there in 97, again, hold no regrets on staying at all.
Yeah, speaking of having other jobs and that sort of thing, you yourself actually still these days, I believe, a builder. You're obviously doing a bit of building during your playing day and that sort of stuff, but during that time or after retirement or anything like that, have you had any of the younger guys come in and doing any work for you or anything? Or and if so, is there any good stories that you might be able to drop with them?
Look, I had Gilbo down, who we signed off as a fully qualified halfway through last year. He's a ripper. I didn't know a lot about Sammy, but he just turned up day one and was prepared to roll his sleeves up and get in there amongst just all the crappy jobs, and it was a terrific learner. I'd a big Spider Everett early days when I very early days we were building a hell of a lot of carports and garages down around the Frankston way, and I never used to take a ladder. Spiders used to be able to just stand there and hold everything up. He liked to think he was good on the tools, but the big fella was a little bit rough around the edges. Didn't quite have the attention to detail, but geez, he was handy in the fact that we just didn't have that ladder at all. A couple of the other younger guys throughout Stevie Baker. I built a couple of units for him, and he was useless on the tools, so I basically just had to do everything for him. But no, it's been good fun. Obviously, Maxie Hutchton, who I now call one of my great mates, who's in his own right, just doing some amazing things building wise. Sort of followed in my footsteps and got his builder's license just as he finished. So, we catch up along with Rui every Monday, Wednesday, Friday down the bars and have a swim and do some weights. And Maxie and I talk shop all the time. And it's been a good industry to go into. Tough, hard, no doubt about that. And it's taken me a long time to sort of be Stewart Loewe, the guy who used to play football who's now the builder. no regrets and really, really enjoying it.
Just a couple before we let you go. On the Moorabbin journey, so you played your first game at Moorabbin against Sydney in round 9, 1986. The club was at a really low ebb at that stage, about to win a fourth wooden spoon in succession. Yeah. There were glimpses, 87 and 89. The club put some good footy together in patches, and obviously the crowds came back. But it was through the early 90s that we saw the joint really start to pump. And obviously when we played our last ever game there, which you were a part of in 1992 against Fitzroy, the club was on the verge of finals for the second year in a row. Can you sort of take us through your first impressions of Moorabbin and the way that grew and perhaps your experiences of the atmosphere? Because I think we've seen quite clearly in the last couple of weeks that it is very much home for the football club, the way it's been celebrated in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, look, I heard the club talking about the possibility of playing the Port Adelaide game at Moorabbin, and I just think that would be awesome if they could somehow manage to do that. I don't know whether they are going to with what's happening at the grandstand, but it would just be unbelievable.
Do you know any good builders?
I've done a bit down there. When time I was there, we did all the club rooms with the boys when we were struggling for a quid. A little bit different to what there is now, but no, I could point them in the right direction. It mightn't happen as quick as they'd like if I was in charge, but it would probably be cheaper than what they're paying for. But look, my first game against the Swans was Frankie Colgan and I debuted. There was not a blade of grass on the ground. I was always told that Ian Stewart watered it, and I've since had that 100% verified. We'd had a wet summer. Had a wet winter, but there seriously it was ankle deep mud from goal square to goal square all the way down. I was lucky enough to grab hold of a mark at about the 20-minute mark in the first quarter. I'd say 30 metres, but I think it was probably 25 metres out. And I just managed to land the distance to get my boot through the mud and kick a goal. The old days up in the social club, we go back afterwards, and yes, we had good fun in at the disco on a Saturday night. But all the coterie groups were up there. It was very intimate, very, very, very loyal. The animal enclosure was enormous. You could smell the barbecue on the outer. And you knew they just had your back all the way through. I remember one day we played Hawthorn. It was the late 80s. It might have been 90. And I used to live at Mount Eliza, and I'd pick halves up on the way through most weekends. But I decided to do this trip on my own. And for some reason, I decided to come the back way. I thought it might have been quicker just to duck up South Road. Well, the traffic on South Road was banked up from Warrigal Road all the way through to South Road. I made it just as the meeting started. It took me half an hour to get all the way through. I think there was 43,000. It was a lockout. It was enormous. And we managed to win that game too, courtesy of Russell Morris, who was playing for Hawthorn, who actually lost it for Hawthorn on that day, and then won us a game for St Kilda the following year against the Hawks. So he won us 2 games in a row. But no, great memories. Just it was just suburban footy, which I know we're not going to get back to. I think we all understand that, but I certainly think there is a slot for somehow getting a boutique stadium that could house 15 or so thousand people, and make that happen. Once or twice a year. I've no doubt it'll be huge.
It'll be absolutely massive. Stewie, as we let you go, I just recently during the week watched the reenactment match of 96 where you tore Collingwood apart. I think for any modern Saints fans that understand that you're a superstar but might not have seen the footage, that wouldn't be a bad game to start. I think you took 15 marks and kicked 7 or 8 in that particular game. It was one of many great games you played for the club. Thank you very much for joining us and sharing some memories. You've been a superstar, and good luck with everything in the building trade, and hopefully they will give you a call.
No worries at all, guys. No worries. Go Saints.
That was Stewart Loewe, one of the all-time greats of the St Kilda Football Club.
Here we are at the Adelaide Airport, ready to fly home. Girls pretty disappointed that they didn't get the result done, but pretty proud in the way they went about their footy. We started on fire, which was a focus because we've been slow the last couple of weeks. So to get out and really take it to Adelaide and play, I guess, the game more on our terms. We knew that if we could do that and disrupt the defence, that we'd have a fair chance of winning the game. Obviously, it was set up for us in the third quarter, going into the last quarter, and potentially if that goal of George's goes through, we're 12 points up and can roll someone behind the ball and defend it. But it didn't go through, and then that was a bit of momentum going their way. Clara went down, who was very pivotal for us in the first three quarters, and then it just unravelled a little bit. But, it's really positive signs. If the girls can play that type of footy continuously and consistently and keep growing on that, hopefully you'll all agree that will be an exciting side to watch.
Peter Searle there reflecting on a really tough loss for the St Kilda girls, a very good performance in their second round effort against Adelaide. The optimistic or glass half full way of looking at that would be to say they were gallant against the reigning premiers and they were very, very sharp, and if not for a line ball decision on the line, probably would have won the game had they have gone 2 goals clear in the last quarter. The glass half empty view is that they should have won the game and didn't.
Yeah, that's right. I think they should have won the game.
Yeah.
I think reality hits in that Adelaide have been the best club in the AFLW for 3 years.
Yeah.
They've won 2 out of the 3 premierships for a reason. They're a quality outfit, even without Erin Phillips. Everyone knows that Adelaide are the benchmark in AFLW, and our girls took it up to them for 3.5 quarters. But experience at the end of the day, they were cooler with the ball, they were stronger at the contest, and they kicked straight when it mattered in those last few minutes. In low-scoring games of football, which we know AFLW is generally. And that's, I'm not saying that as a negative thing, but you got to take those chances when you've got them, and Adelaide did that in those last few minutes.
Yeah, the experience showed in the end there. We lose a player, gets stretched off, it stopped the game, and it possibly slows us down too. Adelaide were just able to get back quicker, restart again faster, kick those quick couple of goals, and that was that. It's just an experience thing. They're as they're saying, they're the most experienced team in the league, literally. It's a tough loss, but it's the sort of thing you can see going first-year team. That sort of thing's probably going to happen sometimes.
Yeah, you can never say it for certain, but it's strong confidence given the way the game was being played and the way we'd answered every challenge that if that ball goes through for a goal and isn't touched on the line, we'd probably win the game. So you go 10, 11 points in front with about 8 or 9 minutes to go. Surely Adelaide heads would have probably dropped at that stage. There are a lot of really good signs in it. Obviously, Patrikios continued to play very well. She's been a star.
She'll be the best player in the league.
Yeah, she'll win the Rising Star this season by a street, I would think. Admittedly, there are other good players in there. Tilly Lucas-Rod was pretty good. McCarthy's goal on the intercept in the first quarter.
Jump on and get vote goal a week.
That's right. So there were plenty of positives out of it, and I guess the way I assess it is we were jumped in the Bulldogs game, pretty scratchy first 20 minutes, and then tight after that, and then matched it with the reigning premiers. So a tough game this week against Melbourne, who won both their matches and looked pretty sharp, but it's going to be difficult to play finals in a 7 or 8 game comp when you lose your first 2, but we certainly don't look like we're anywhere near the worst side in it. We look like we've got a fair bit of depth and hardness about us.
I think it's pretty fair to say that we've shown the most out of any of the new expansion clubs.
Yeah, and the Gold Coast beat Richmond, but they were not exactly. And then they played another expansion club. So,
and I think if we were to win a couple and potentially sneak into that third spot, that I don't think any club, Adelaide, Bulldogs, Brisbane, who've all been there before, I don't think any of them would want to face us.
Yeah, they looked. They certainly did look stuffed the last 10 or so minutes. So hopefully they can build from there. Melbourne, obviously, next up for them. Moorabbin memories, obviously asked Stewart Loewe about it, and we've been talking about it as a theme. We're all pretty young, but some of my Moorabbin memories, one of my only Moorabbin memories is actually that last game in 1992. I went as a kid with Mum and Dad and got lost in the crowd. I think Dad was walking me back from, say, the toilets to the staging area where some of the players and coaches were speaking after the game, and I think somewhere in the crowd I must have just lost hold of his hand. And I think they had to do one of those announcements on stage for the lost child and found me. I think some of the boys were up there at the time. But one I do remember was 2005, back in the day when the Moorabbin used to show a lot of the St Kilda, which they're starting to do again now. They used to show a lot of the St Kilda games from interstate. And the finals win in Adelaide.
Yep.
Watching that at Moorabbin with so many Saints fans when we beat them in 2005, that was a remarkable atmosphere.
Yeah, I was there that night. That was great. Yep.
Yeah, there's a couple. I have not vivid memories, but I have vague memories of the goal squares and following Plugger from goal square to goal square. I have vague memories of banging on the tin back of the grandstand, at quarter time breaks. I think one of my strongest memories is that week of the 97 grand final.
Yeah.
The training run on the Thursday. Dad pulled me out of school and we went to Moorabbin and were there for training, and that was something that I'd never experienced before, was that atmosphere at Moorabbin before the grand final. But one I think that's probably a bit personal to me was my old man used to do a bit of work with some guys at the club. Johnny Beveridge was one of them, and a couple of years organised for me to have my birthdays at Moorabbin at training nights, and got to do some tours of the dressing rooms and then the locker rooms and that sort of stuff, and meet the guys. I was awestruck. And one of these nights, Stewie Loewe was on the boundary and said, "Can we grab a photo?" I was 5 or 6 or 7, and Buckets, who's named Buckets because of his hands and how big he is, picked me up, and I have this photo that I've had on my wall probably since that night or that week. And his hands are literally as big as my entire body. And it's one of my favourite photos, one of my favourite memories. But, we've spoken a bit kind of off air and on this podcast about what Moorabbin means to us and to Saints fans. And, we were there last week, H. I think it was pretty clear that Moorabbin is our home.
Yep.
And where, our Saints family wants to be.
Yeah.
And it was a magical feeling being there a couple of weeks ago.
If they were playing down in Seaford, I don't think we would have got a crowd like that.
No.
But going on for myself, I didn't really see much myself down there in the day. We were more Waverley attendees. But just going back to those grand final weeks.
Yeah.
That they were huge. I mean, we were just on the cusp of leaving there. But those training sessions the week before and all that sort of thing, they were just crazy. But I do remember one because they had the training session on, I think it was on the Thursday. The teams were named afterwards, and I was down in Chadstone for some reason that night, and I walked straight past Robert Eddy. And I was like, "Oh, you poor bugger," because he wasn't dropped from the week before, and
it would have been 09. He played in the draw in 2010, so he would have missed the year before. So he hit the post in the last quarter of the draw, actually, from about 50 out on the boundary. Robert Eddy, but,
I saw him.
It's a bit stiff. Always copped a bit of a bad rap, I thought.
A little bit.
Was perfect type of player for that Ross Lyons.
He was, but I would have picked Jack Stephen or David Armitage probably ahead of him. But
no arguments.
But
there.
he was a little bit stiff. But it's interesting. We talk about the feel and the soul of certain places. Like if you go to any sporting event at the MCG, there's a certain hum or feeling at the venue, like a pulse, if you will. And Seaford, not through any fault of its own, it just didn't have that history. But you could tell walking into Moorabbin that it does have that vibe, that feeling of home, that sort of soul and spirit about it that tells you that's where they're supposed to be. So hopefully everyone's along. If they do happen to run into us, if you know what we look like, you can pop by and have a beer at Moorabbin. We'd love to do that. That's probably one of those sort of standout experiences for me. My father used to go to Moorabbin every week for 27 years and being a kid until they last played there. And he was saying yesterday that I've never actually stood with him at a game at Moorabbin. I've only been there as a kid, either on his shoulders or off with mum or doing something.
Lost.
That's all lost, all lost in the crowd. So for me, as a lifelong St Kilda supporter, I get to watch St Kilda play at Moorabbin with my father for the very first time. So I'm sure that's something that a lot of people will experience as well.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I wonder what would have happened with Spud's funeral had we not had Moorabbin as an option.
Yeah.
Because that was a really special day. I think we all knew it.
The only other option would have been Ballarat, probably.
Probably. But that was a really special day, and I think it was the perfect place.
Mm-hmm.
The perfect place to say farewell.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the lap of honour still probably gets me to some degree.
There's a bit of a lump in the throat just talking about it.
That's right. It was tough, and even Stewie there, I think most of us saw his speeches at the best and fairest and at the funeral itself, and reiterating some of those words that we asked him that question, and he went for probably 5 minutes on Spud, just pouring it all out and letting that all know. So, and it looks like round 2, I think. Is it round 2 that the club's looking at doing the tribute to him? So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like, but. It's back now. I don't think we're going to have a St Kilda free week for a very long time. The girls will be, that's right. The girls will be going for at least the next 6 weeks, and the guys are obviously in action from now through until hopefully about the 28th or 29th of September.
The last 2 rounds overlap, I think it is. And we've actually got on the Sunday we play North Melbourne, and the girls play pretty much straight after at Victoria Park.
There you go.
If we're still doing this podcast in 30 weeks, I'll be pretty happy.
Yeah, that's right. If there's only one game to preview and there's only one game left in the season, let's hope we're in it. But guys, thank you, and we'll do it again over the next couple of weeks.
Cheers, mate.
See you tomorrow.